Here we go. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. Welcome to episode 30 of the podcast Unlimited Wisdom with Robert Hollis. I'm Craig A. Jackman along with Matt Hollis, and we are so glad to have you with us today. Very exciting because obviously this is the week before Thanksgiving, and so we've got a couple of more things to do before Thanksgiving. But gentlemen, I'm very grateful to have both of you with me here and to have this group of people together and doing what we are doing, especially with these podcasts. How grateful it is. And okay, if you don't mind my starting, I am grateful right now for Mucinex. I am grateful for the day. I'm grateful for living in this time that we are living right now. And I am grateful for both Matt and Robert Hollis.
Thanks,
Aw,
Craig.
thank you, Craig. Matt, go ahead.
Oh, I don't have anything to. No, I'm just kidding. No, of course I'm
Matt's like,
grateful for you guys.
Matt's like, I have nothing to be grateful for. Go ahead.
No, I have so many things to be grateful for. It's like winning an Oscar or something, right? It's like you're gonna leave some shit out, you know.
Yep.
But no, I similarly, like, I'm just so grateful.
Oh, sorry, the orchestra started.
Right. I'm like, I just started. No, I'm just grateful for you guys. I'm grateful to, I don't know, be in the time that I'm in right now. It's just, it seems like the world is moving financially in the right direction for the Hollis organization. And then at the same time, like every single long-term plan that I've had with AI is not only coming to fruition, but like happening faster than I expected. There's so much, even the groups that I'm involved in that have just been exponentially exploding. I'm looking forward to doing a lot more with that too. But it's just like, man, I can't be more grateful than I am right now for like the times that we're in. I don't know. There's not another time that's been better. And I think a lot of people might fear like certain aspects of things happening, like the election just happened and shit. But like I barely even noticed after it was over. It was like all this hype, and then now all the hype's died down. Unless of course you're still, hooked to it, right?
Yeah.
And then you're
Yeah.
like, who is the attorney general? Who is this or that? Who is this?
Oh,
Nobody
God,
cares,
you could go crazy with the news the way it is now.
Yeah, well, they want you to, right? And it's like the more time I spend away for it, the more grateful I am that I'm not forced to pay attention to it.
There you go.
So that's something I'm grateful for too. But how about you, Dad?
I'm happy and grateful for everything. When I really think about life, there's always these things where you go, things either happen to you or for you. And I know that people will probably think that this is probably a weird statement, but because of Matt's imagination, I just really appreciate the universe and the master imaginator bringing all this AI into fruition for him. You know what I mean? See, if a lot of people imagine the power that you have when the things that you're experiencing in the world, you believe that you had a part in making it happen because you're that much into imagination, you're that emotionally linked in to ways of being able to help mankind. And one of the things that I've noticed is even the stuff that I'm marketing, it's like I never believed. I was talking to a dear friend, Matt, you know him really well, Josh Flowers.
Yeah, of course.
And Josh Flowers reaches out to me and I'm explaining what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis right now. And he's just like mouth wide open. And one of the things that he sort of giggled and he goes, me and Mary, where his wife was talking about me last night. And he goes, do you find it by accident that Robert's exactly where he told us he would be? And I went, what an accomplishment. Yeah, I mean, what a compliment. And he said, yeah. He said, have you hit 1 million active followers yet? And I said, when did I tell you that? He goes, that was in Pro Travel. He says, so that must have been like 2006. So I still want to get 1 million active subscribers that I have something to do with in instilling imagination and just the ability to give people a vision of them and their families doing better for their life. And I never ever dreamed that I would be marketing something that's that's the biggest no-brainer I've ever marketed.
Did you think that he would even bring something like that up and that it came from back far that long ago?
Yeah. Now, he said when he was involved in it, and I was involved with a company called Pro Travel, and I took that company from like 200,000 a year to 10 million a year in like a couple of years. And man, we were all traveling the world, having a blast, and uh, and so when I shared with him, hey, I said, I know we're focused on trading right now, this tap to trade. I said, but let me tell you a couple more divisions of what I'm marketing. And I told him about dream trips. And he was like, holy, what? You know, I never thought about it in a blink of an eye. All the things that I marketed in the past, I'm marketing all at the same time.
All
Oh
you
my
needed was
gosh.
just one company to just bring it under one umbrella, right?
Yeah,
You're like,
yeah. It's like
yeah,
A little bit of
so
this, a little bit
so
of that.
yeah, so
right.
I'm really, really excited about the future, and I'm thankful for both of you two and all the things that you do behind the scene. I know I'm the guy that's like a a car driver. You know what I mean? It's like everyone knows the race car driver's name, but they don't know the crew chief. They don't know the person that's behind the scenes doing all the stuff. And I look
I was
at
gonna say if you stop bringing me up, no one would know. That's my plan. You got to bring me up every time I do something. I
yeah.
mean,
It's all your fault, Matt. You
who
keep
who
doing
would
things, and
who would
know.
want their parent to be proud of them and share their stuff? What the hell's wrong with
Yeah,
you?
yeah. So we got, I know one of the things, Matt did a graphic. We haven't posted it yet, but we just went over 21,000.
Woo! I
Uh,
forgot about that. We got to post that,
yeah,
huh?
Yeah.
21,000 subscribers and I had 1.1 million views. It's really, really fun to like you guys said, be alive in this day and age. It's like I'm more pumped up. I know Craig always talks about the subscribers, but I'm always more pumped up by the views.
Oh
I
yeah.
I see some of the views. Matt was so nice enough to do a credible video for Terry and I when we hit Mega Millions, and so he added on the last part of our journey so far. And I posted it up, and it's like our channel's picking up momentum because I promoted it, and it seemed like it got a thousand views like within hours, which
Mhm.
I'm used to having like 1,000 views a day, and then the other two videos that we promoted, one's got over 2 million impressions, 2.2 million impressions. I'm going like, we're talking about numbers that 6 months ago were dreaming about. You know what I mean?
Right.
Oh yeah.
We're like, hey, we're at 7,300 subscribers. And then a month later, we're at 7,400 subscribers. And a month later, we're at 7,500 subscribers.
Yeah,
It is
it's
slowly ticking up, which is, thank you, everybody who's watching, because without you, we couldn't even be doing this.
Right.
And if you want to, by the way, okay, plug, 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 hit that subscribe button down below, please. If you're not subscribed to our channel, we produce a lot of stuff and we'd love to have you watch, share, and with your ears to hear, learn from. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, no,
I was gonna
no.
say,
And
you know
there
that
was
new
a lot.
video that I did for you? I was just looking just to throw some stats out there because this is the fun part, right?
Yeah.
Because I knew you were gonna do stuff with the video, but I hadn't looked at it. So the moment you're like, "Hey, here's how many views it's gotten," I'm like, I gotta go look at the stats on this. Did you guys know? So like on average, it's good to have like if in the first 30 seconds of your video you have like still retaining 10 to 15% of the people watching it, you're doing good. This video's got like 40%. So that's actually
Wow.
like really,
Whoa.
really good. That means that the retention in the beginning of the video is like really, really good. People are getting hooked to it and
And so
watching it,
and so what
which
Matt
I
put
knew like we
together,
just needed to be doing
right?
that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What Matt did on this video for you guys to go and look at it is very simply he told a story.
You're kidding.
That's right.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. You mean telling a story has impact?
Surprise.
Yeah. I'll never forget
Wow.
my mentor 37 years ago, the first time that I heard him say this thing. He goes, how many of you have kids, know people that have kids or have grandkids? You know, he always did. Who knows someone that has kids, right? And he goes, so when it comes to that time where the child needs to go to sleep but doesn't want to, isn't it always fun to go to bed with them and sit down and tell them, or have them cuddle up in a chair with you and you can tell them some bedtime facts?
Right.
Boy, he gets you in the emotions of it. And then he says, there's nothing better than sitting down with your grandchild or your child and reading them and going through and sharing with them some bedtime facts.
Or you know what?
And
You
then,
just
and
brought
then as soon
something
as
up
you say it,
interesting.
you
Go
go,
ahead.
your mind goes, no, it's bedtime stories. And then he would look at the crowd and he goes, but that's not what you guys fucking do. You don't tell stories. You actually share facts of other people that are sharing facts, and you don't even know if the facts are true. But here's the worst part. People don't give a shit about facts. Why? Because it's statistically done, research was done, and 82% of all facts that are shared are not facts. No, that was made up too.
Did Abraham Lincoln say that on the internet?
I think it was Albert Einstein.
Oh,
I
right,
was
right. Of
remembering.
course.
Yeah.
I always remember me and Matt's always had fun with this because my sons unfortunately had to grow up with me. And so whenever they would say, and I would go, why doesn't anybody listen to the whole sentence that they say? So they say, oh my God, this is the worst weather ever. I think that they finally got beat up bad enough by the public where now this is what they say. This is once in 100-year flood. Why do they say once in 100 years? Because in 103 years ago, it was absolutely fucking worse. So, I think people are getting upset at news because their opinions are like, oh my God, this is the worst time ever. And I've always shared with Matt and Kyle, they're going like, oh my God, the drought is so bad, and climate change, and then all of a sudden it was like California just got hammered where we can't take any more water here. You know what I mean? Hey, stop it. We don't need any more water here. The reservoirs are full. We just got 12 feet of snow 2-3 years in a row in Big Bear. We can't use the facilities if it's 12 feet under snow.
Until the drought comes. It's literally a big pendulum swing.
Shower, right?
Yeah. How many years ago was the drought? Okay, just speaking of that California thing, how many years ago was the drought? And then all of a sudden we get slammed and the reservoirs are full. I don't know. I remember, Lake Owens out there in the Owens Valley was as dry as a desert. It's probably full. And then probably by the end of this winter, depending on how things end up, it may be dry again, and we're going to go into drought conditions. It's
so when people right now, it was right before we just got hammered. It was like not even 3 days ago on the news. They were saying that America right now is having the worst drought in more counties than ever in history. Mm-hmm. And I went, that's not true. Because if you go on the internet and say, when did the United States have the worst drought? It will always bring up the Dust Bowl.
That's right.
And I mean, I forget what it was. It was 11 months of over 100-degree weather. Just killed every crop that was out there. Not some of the crops, all of them. And it's like, listen, why does everything have to be the worst, the biggest, the baddest? I think that people are becoming so insensitive nowadays because they're just like, wait a minute. It seems like everything the news tells me, or somebody else that's trying to get the clickbait, right? Mom was telling me the other day, hey, did you see this? And I went, don't click on that stuff. I mean, there's a couple of places you can go and go, listen, did so-and-so really die? Is so-and-so really pregnant? And it's like, no.
We've had that discussion before about clickbaiting because
God.
it is still rampant, and it really frustrates me because I used to love journalism and be in the news. That was actually one of my goals when I was growing
Wow.
up. I mean, doing the news, broadcast journalism, but the way that it has become sensationalized
Yeah.
is incredible.
You would just have to do your own podcast now.
Pretty much, and that's why you
Wow.
see a lot of different
Oh wow,
podcasts
that's
that
what
are
we're
out there.
doing.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What's real,
Yeah.
or what CNN says is different from CNBC, which is different from MSNBC, ABC, Fox, Breitbart, whatever. I mean, they all have their take, and it's like, what's real anymore?
Yeah.
Yeah, you got the news feed and all the people that are older that still watch TV get the consumption of Fox News and CNN and all these other ones. And then everybody else that's younger that grew up on the internet or lives a majority of their lives on the internet gets a secondhand opinion based off of a podcast, based off of a this or that person's opinion. Like,
Right.
I could probably count, no, I couldn't count how many videos on YouTube all of a sudden existed after Trump won the election about how important Joe Rogan is in comparison to all these other people, right? Like his influence or whatever, and the ability to create your own show. And I was sending Craig and my dad a bunch of stuff about AI last night because I was just going down the rabbit hole like I'm always. But
Never ending rabbit
it's
hole chase.
yeah. It's interesting because like Sam Altman, the guy that owns and runs OpenAI, which makes ChatGPT, if you didn't know, said that once AI agents are available, which will be like January of next year from them, Google probably too, and Microsoft as well. What an AI agent is basically here's a bunch of, if I gave it a bunch of training data and said, do this task, it would just do the task autonomously without me telling it what to do. Which
Dang, man, I'm looking
it could
forward to
go
that.
from everything from trading stocks to customer service to everything. So this is like the big teeter-totter point where all of a sudden our relationship and conversation with technology drastically changes. We're like just months away from that. And as I'm going down that rabbit hole, Sam Altman said this months ago, way before, but he was like, when AI agents exist, we'll see companies that are created that are billion-dollar companies that are only run by a couple of people or by one person because of the
When he said
ability.
that, I was like, what?
Well, just imagine, like if I wanted to make something, right? It's no longer my job, and this is where I have a leg up over everybody else, right? And if you want a leg up over everybody else, you should be in this shit and researching it right now because it's going
Yeah.
to change everything. But every single job that you can think of could be trained into an artificial intelligence agent system. Pretty
That's the
much
way
all
you
of it.
gotta,
Art,
that's the
design.
way you gotta think.
Right. So now the ideas stop going, how do I learn how to run Photoshop? That's no longer something you have to learn. You have to learn how to communicate with artificial systems, AI systems, on getting what you want out of them and training them to create those things and those programs. Now, that's what he meant by the billionaires, is that the people that are sitting right now in college are doing things to learn one skill instead of learning the skill of managing AI agents is going to fall behind every single other person that's doing that. And it's not going to be
Wow.
by a little bit, it's going to be exponential. So it's funny because sometimes even like my family, like you, dad, or other people will go, the fuck is Matt up to? Like, I don't understand. Like, what is he working on? What is he doing? I'm learning how to talk and communicate and run these systems. I've been doing that for over a year now. I can wire them and I can train an AI to make pictures and videos or talk like you on my computer right now. And I'm probably, not to brag on myself, but I'm probably only out of like 10, 15,000 people on the planet that are doing this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's such a small niche, and yet it's going to, I want first mover advantage on every idea I've ever had with AI agents, right? So my goal now is no longer to learn how to utilize people in any way or learn how to utilize, uh, you know, them having access to certain things or teaching them. That's not my incentive anymore. My incentive is to learn how to train these artificial intelligence systems to do the work that I don't feel like doing and to make
Got
the
it.
things that I don't feel like learning how to do. So that even extends to TradeStars AI. I've trained, that was one of my fun ones because it's like, I don't think I've trained an AI this much before, but I've trained it to such a level that I was posting stuff with you guys last night. I had this
Oh
thing
gosh, yeah.
breaking down the exact amount I need it to make every single day to pass my challenge, the day and time I'll pass my challenge, all these different things. And I know the benchmarks that I had to hit. I didn't need to know how to speak that language.
Right.
I just need to know how to speak the AI's language.
Yeah.
And so this drastic like shift that's happening, I think people are just going to like wake up one day and go, how the fuck do we deal with it? Because when I train 2 or 3 AIs to run through those challenges and keep doing it, we'll see how long the challenges still exist.
Matt, this is exactly where we were a
But
few years ago with the internet. Look how many people thought,
but I'm ecstatic about it because it's not a replacement for anybody. And
No.
it's not to say, oh, this or that, this or that. It's just as these AI systems grow and the agent systems grow, one of the best parts about them is that they're incredibly shareable. Like if I train an artificial intelligence system to run a trading plan and trade on the stock market through an API based off of the patterns that it sees, right? I could train it to do that. And then for you to do it would just be a simple pay me, copy and paste.
Yeah.
So what ends up happening is you start asking yourself, okay, the first company that's first mover advantage on that,
Right.
right? There's going to be a company out there that goes, hey, here's an AI agent that will trade based off any trading plan you want. How long does the stock market sustain everyone buying into those AI agents and now the AI agents really being the ones that are doing majority of the looking and the trading aspect?
Right.
It's all hand off for
it's
human
it's
Well,
going to be
agents.
automated really
well,
soon.
that's one of the things that, when you put together a program like that, it's not only when it makes the move. I just think, because some of the funny shows I like watching, and people might not find them funny, is like a movie called Billions or Succession. Machines are always going to be in that place where they're going for a certain outcome. But when you have people with alternative motives that catch on because they're using AI, and then they say, oh, we see what these guys are doing. And then they make a mental shift where it hurts that. So, that's always been the thing with
Well, I
any
could see them
kind of,
being banned from the stock market
no,
based
not
off
be
of
not
the
being
API
banned,
calls. Yeah.
not being banned. It's just every chart shows that it's going to do this, and you got 5 or 6 individuals that got the power, just like they did with dumb money. And all of a sudden they just go, okay, these guys had
Right.
fun for a while. Let's throw a couple of monkey wrenches in. Why? Because we can. There's no other
Yeah.
reason than, hey, there's this pattern that we're noticing. You know what I
Well, there's
mean?
a reason that artificial intelligence isn't being talked about by every single person right now in the United States, or even was barely, let alone almost none at all, brought up in the election. And that is
Okay,
because
there we go.
everybody
Sorry,
that,
we got.
oh, are we all right?
Sorry, we were. Yeah, we're okay now. Something
Okay.
happened. I don't know what it was. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say the reason you guys don't hear about artificial intelligence systems all over the place outside of the 3 companies I just named, is by design. It's by design because first mover advantage is not going to be you.
Right.
Their goal with these AI agents and systems is to beat you to the punch in every single element that they can.
Yeah.
And so when you think of a business being started where somebody sits down and trains 3 AI agents to do a whole customer service job, right? Say for a specific company, and then they have to lay off all of their customer service people. Oh, recording stopped. Can't hear you, Craig. You're muted. You with us?
No, he's locked up.
I'm doing like a mega AI rant. I'm sorry I'm taking up so much time.
No,
That's
no.
why, yeah.
That's what the podcast is for. I don't
But
know.
I love what
I
you're
don't know.
saying, Dad.
I don't know if Craig just got tired of it that he wanted to stop.
I think he might be having internet issues, but it seems we're still live.
Okay, cool.
So I'm just gonna keep going a little bit.
Yeah, please. I love listening to you.
Well, I love listening to you too because I think the points that you bring up are very valid. I think that one of the things that AI systems lack
Oh,
the
we
ability
are
to
having some
do.
issues here.
I think you're having issues, Craig, not like your internet or something. If you can hear us, maybe just type to him. But since these people have first mover advantage on these AI systems, their goal is just to like eliminate those jobs and become those billion-dollar companies first, right? So it looks like you're the host now, but we're still live,
Hang on.
I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was just gonna say that like their goal is to have that first mover advantage on you.
Yeah.
Right. So somebody like me that's learning these AI agents and these systems then goes and trains 2 or 3 AI agents to run a whole customer service department for Verizon. Right. And then
Right.
Verizon shows up and pays me monthly to maintain those AI agents. And I just went ahead and eliminated 100 people's jobs and they only have to pay me a whopping 100 grand a month.
Yeah.
And I get off scot-free on it. So when you look at like what I'm building or like the company that I want to build in the future, even Dad, like we talked about this, but that's like my end goal is to have first mover advantage in those areas and
Right.
just monopolize the fuck out of it and like have a lot of different
Well,
things in the mix. But
I'm your backer, so we're gonna make sure it happens.
well, yeah, I always but the question you said, I want to piggyback on that because I think you bring up a very good point, and that is that AI systems can replicate things and see patterns. But the one thing, and I love that video I shared with you with Ben Affleck, because what he said is very true, and this is something
Yeah,
like
I
I've shared
watched
as
it.
well. But it's like the aspect of taste is not something you could train an AI to do.
Hmm.
So the spontaneity of things happening, exactly what you're saying. You know, the AI can watch the pattern and possibly trade pretty well. But it's going to run into the hiccup of, oh, like BP oil just had an oil spill. And
Right.
so blah, blah, blah it's gonna drop all of a sudden. But since stuff like that's going to happen, the market's going to fluctuate and the AI is going to go, what is this? I'm not used to this pattern. This pattern hadn't existed. So yes, it
Talking,
absolutely is a bottleneck
yeah,
for it.
talking about which I find that stuff fascinating, Matt. It's like, so we're not going to get AI to watch a Christie's auction and based off the paintings that the Mozarts and all of these, incredible paintings that people are like, oh my God, this is valuable because of the artist and the painter and all of this stuff. And then they throw up a white piece of board that's got a banana duct tape
Did you
to it.
hear the guy's going to eat the banana that bought it? He's going to eat it.
Wow. Wow. And so, bought it for 6.5 billion.
Was it really a B or was it
What?
million? Is it 6.5 million or billion?
Million.
Okay. You said billion there for a second. I was like, wait,
Oh,
holy.
yeah.
I'm like, dude, what? That's
Yeah.
even worse than I thought.
And so when they showed the young kid that bought it, you know what I mean? And I'm going like, see, AI, in my opinion, would never, ever, ever caught that. It could look at every pattern on the planet and look at everything with all this knowledge, and all of us see this white particle board come up with the banana duct tape to it. And when the person said, okay, starting bid, and someone said 250,000, I think the AI would go, I'm never going to understand these fucking people.
It's funny because
and then,
the AI
and then
system
watch it.
won't. You're right.
Yeah. And then go from 250 to 500 to 1 million, 4 million. You know,
But
it's
you know
like,
what? You know how my mind thinks? I'm like, yes, you can't train an AI system to know taste and know that element, but you
right.
can train an AI system to know human beings and manufacture that moment and that element.
Yeah.
And
See that?
that's the nuts part, is that as we have all this shit, like even before AI was really starting to catch hold on things, like these things were exciting to me and you, Dad, and we always talk about this stuff so
Well, like the
much.
money.
But like in the book, like influence or how to win friends and influence people, the way, not necessarily to manipulate people, but how people, leaders and people move
Yeah.
an audience or a group. Dad, you're incredible at this. You can motivate a whole group of people, a whole town of people, a whole stadium of people, right? And so, since that's the case, that a lot of people, I've had people walk up to me, right? Even after you were on stage and go, I don't know how he does that, or I don't know how he's so good at it, or why doesn't he take notes, or why doesn't he do all these things? And I'm like, it just comes down to like that trust part. He
Yeah.
believes and trusts that everything's gonna work out. And that element of it I now have with AI, and I kind of can relate more to that feeling
Yeah.
you've always talked about of just being like, okay, I kind of can just trust that everything's gonna go the way it's supposed to.
Yeah.
I
There's,
can breathe
there's,
and like not freak out about it as much.
when we talk about being connected to whatever that is, you know what I mean? When we talk about, it's funny because mom's got the little thing that's on the mirror, which is,
All the
imagination.
quotes and everything.
Yeah, the imagination is the most marvelous, inconceivable, powerful force in the world, Albert Einstein, and you sit there and you
Hmm.
think of that because the people, they didn't want to ever give that whatever it is a label because and that's pro and con, so then you got people
Yeah.
that go, well, see, he doesn't believe in whatever, but they all what it was, sixth sense or whatever it was, that because it's fun when you're plugged in and you're connected to that and you trust it, and then all of a sudden you get these creative thoughts and ideas that you've never had before. And I don't know if Matt, if you and I's ever had this conversation, but when stuff hits me like that and I lean into it and I'm bold and I share it with everyone, then it seems like it's just months later. Sometimes it could be like 6 months later where everyone changes their language. It's like all
Hmm.
of a sudden, this is the new buzzword, this is the new, aha moment where people, get it right away, and they go, oh my God, so it's like all of a sudden I was trying to think tipping point. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Hmm.
Someone comes up with that thought pattern when he says in the book that he heard it from a couple of people, that there becomes
Right.
always in this consciousness or mass awareness of everyone leaning in a way. And now we're talking about that with AI. Is there's everyone that wants this to happen are all emotionally imagining, most of them in a positive way, of when that
Yes.
tipping point's going to hit.
It's like the lottery, except like for everybody,
Yeah.
like it's interesting because you're like, that is the way that it is. If you're part of some of these communities or the subreddits or the discords and stuff, it's really interesting to hear them communicate and talk,
Yeah.
because the way that these people communicate, they're betting their whole future of their lives on these things
Of
happening,
course.
right? So there's people that I know that have dropped out of college because they're fully aware that that's going to be a waste.
Yep.
And to have, obviously if you're a doctor, we don't have doctor robots yet, but we
I
will have
wa-
robots that doctors can run,
I watched
which will
this
be cool.
guy on a video. You're talking about that. And we
Yeah.
already know that a lot of surgeries that are done today now are done with robot hands,
Hmm.
but because they can make such a small incision and the thing can go in such a small incision and do the things that they need done.
Yep.
Well, this guy was going, watch this. And it was showing the precision of the doctor using his hands. And he was looking through a microscope that was a lens inside that arm. And
Hmm.
he was going in and cutting this artery. And then he was going in with these two things and taking something out. And then he was going in and they were saying that the size of this was about the size of a pea. And how they practice is pulling skin off grapes.
Right. No,
So
I
they
have
can
seen that.
take
It's
they
amazing.
can take a grape and hold it and then slowly make an incision in that grape and then pull the skin off the grape.
Listen, have you seen like how it's made? It's similar to that, right? Like there's
Yeah.
that show How It's Made. And
But the
I
video,
love that show
yeah,
because you see this shit and you're like, holy crap, how do they make a machine to do this specific
right.
task, right?
So he sets you up. He shows you 4 or 5 things that was a really big surgery in the past that took like 3 or 4 people. And now they're using local anesthetic and just going through one area in a small incision and doing something where they used to have to cut you open and spread you open to go in and do this little surgery, like even a vasectomy, which was
Right, yeah.
scary for some guys, right? And then
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden you're watching it and you're in awe of this video to him talking. He did it for like 5 minutes. And he goes, I just got one last thing to share with you guys. In every one of these operations that have been done now millions of times, the only time there's a mistake, it comes down to one thing:
Yeah, human error.
human error.
Yeah, I know.
He
It's
goes,
crazy.
and he goes, you didn't realize it, but you realize it was a person running the robot.
Well, this shit, because I love
He goes, why do we
statistics
have
to a certain
humans running
extent.
robots? So he's
This is the shit that scares me about driving or those other aspects. Like some people are scared of flying, but I just know the stats of something bad happening is so low that I don't fear it. What I
Mhm.
do fear is like not just driving around town, but when you have to do like a long distance trip, I'm like, okay, the odds of something bad happening are increased, right?
Right.
You think of all these different areas and it's like, well, the odds increase of getting in an accident when you're driving. Why? Human error.
Human error.
So then you start seeing AI systems step into cars
A
and now they
plane,
can
a
take
plane,
over.
a whole plane crashed into a side of a mountain. How is that possible? Oh, the pilot was suicidal and he just decided
Or
to
the
take
people that were
everybody.
checking the plane didn't check it well enough and something broke. Right. Yeah. So, and this is even, you being a mechanic in the past, you brought this up probably a decade ago and it's only become more so the case, right? But it's like when you go into a dealership to get your car worked on, they bring out a computer and plug it in first
Yep.
thing. Like the first thing they do, because
Yep.
the computer inside the car knows just like your body does, just like your brain goes, hey, this area is hurting. We're starting to develop brains that go into these cars that go, hey, listen, the tire is a little flat. And
Yep.
it could tell that the tire is a little flat days before it explodes.
Yep.
Days before it explodes. And then you go, oh shit, I wonder what's wrong with it. And you go look and there's a nail in it. And you're like, oh, okay, I need to, and that's happened to me, right? So instead of me driving on it and not realizing where it was, it's like you need to do something about it now. There's probably a
Right.
nail in it.
Yeah.
And that's obviously Teslas are a little more advanced, right? Like my Tesla legit said, there's probably a nail in your tire because
Wow.
the going down in a way that it only would if it was punctured somewhere,
Right.
and the car is aware of that because it's been trained on enough data to go, hey, if you keep refilling the tire pressure and it keeps going down, odds are you have a hole somewhere, right? So,
Yeah.
but
That
yeah, I
happened, that
love,
just happened with Mom's Tesla too. It
oh,
was like,
did it?
oh yeah, we were putting air in it like every couple of weeks. It was like a super slow leak. And I took it over to Harry Staley, a guy I used to work for.
I
Pretty
know.
yes. And he's going like,
He fixed my tire.
yeah.
Same Tesla. Yeah. No, same situation. And guess what? He did it for free because he knew you. It was interesting. So I went there and I brought you up and every now and then name dropping helps. But in this situation
Yeah.
it did. Because
Yeah.
he just
Why,
was
why,
like, "Oh, I'll fix it." And he's like, "I'll patch it." And I'm like, "How much do I owe you?" And he's like, "We
yeah.
just we just did it for free. No big deal." I'm like, "Wow." Even filled it up. So
So what else? What else is new?
oh man. I mean, there's like I'm so involved in all the AI stuff, but at the same time, like having all of the opportunities that exist as people are like if I'm training the AI systems, everything you said about the stock market is true.
Yep.
I've never tested any of these AI agents and the capabilities of doing it. I do know one person that did, and it didn't turn out very well in the past.
Yep.
So not to say, oh, this is going to happen this way or that way. I'm just
And
curious how it would work.
and
And it's not even a focus of mine, by the way.
yeah,
It's not even a focus of mine to
right.
do that. So
Here's the other
yeah,
thing about that story. You know, he didn't bring it to the public for 18 months
right.
because he just didn't want to open it up to everybody because what if?
Mhm.
And then, of course, when he opened it up, started letting people know, it did one thing, and that's probably triggered a lot of things that people were looking at. It's like, it's like if you want to talk about greed and power and all those things that we know, it's like all of a sudden when you realize that, well, listen, sort of like the dumb money show. It's like,
Right.
listen, they're they're a gnat on a dog's ass. You know what I mean? It's like, who cares if they're like, scalping, $5 or $6 million. Then all of a sudden, someone says to you, hey, it dropped by this amount, and it was so funny because I was just talking to Josh Flowers about that. You know what I mean? It's like the dumb money whole thing was he knows a guy that was 21 years of age and he got his account up to 2 million with that. And he said I stayed
GameStop.
yeah, and he said I stayed in too long, but I still made a little over 1 million. You know what I mean? And it's like you sit
That's
there and you hear
still,
those
yeah.
stories and it's like, wow, when you're at the right place at the right time. And
Bitcoin. Yeah.
yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. I
Well,
know
I think that
people.
that's going to happen again. Like that's the thing is that there's not if it will happen, it's already been happening. And
Right.
that's with NVIDIA. Like if you have to ask yourself, and like I said, none of this is, or I've said in the past, none of this is financial advice. It's just if you would have taken this advice a year ago when we were talking about it, you'd just be how much percent? 600% or something richer,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So, like it's not financial advice. It's just advice based off of the wisdom of knowing how these systems work to a certain extent. I don't know how the company works. I'm not going to say, hey, this works this way or that way. I just know NVIDIA is the de facto #1 company for artificial intelligence moving forward. And
Right.
every other company's goal is making an attempt to dethrone them, which I don't think will happen anymore. I saw this one article that was insane where and the CEO of that company already sat in front of a bunch of programmers and said, if you were going to school right now for computer science, college, you probably should drop out because
Wow.
AI is gonna like, coding is one of those things they could do very easily,
Right.
very easy, especially once agents are. So like, Dad, you start to think of shit like this. It's like, okay, man, I had that idea. I have this idea for such a great app, but I'm too lazy to learn how to code an app, too lazy to find the people to code it, too lazy to do all this shit. You
Yeah.
sit down and you just
So like
explain the whole idea.
like 80% of the people out there that said they could do it for you
Right.
would just take your money and mess it up.
Yeah, they take months to do it and an AI can take minutes to do it. So like that's the shift that I'm really looking forward to is like if you've
Yeah.
sat out there and had an idea for a movie or a show, or you've sat out there and you've had an idea for an app, but you were just too lazy to take the next step with it, you'll now have AI agents that go, oh, I could build you an app in 30 minutes. Just give me the idea. And they're not going to steal it from you. So you don't
The
have to
other
worry
thing I
about that
love.
whole concept of like how Facebook started, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like the Winklevoss twins show up and say, let's make a social network that is exclusive to colleges. And then Zuckerberg steals the idea, makes Facebook, which is exclusive to colleges, and only
Yeah.
makes one of the 10 richest companies on the planet. So that's a scared part for a lot of people, right? It's like, I don't want to give up my good ideas.
Yeah. But it's like the story about you can steal the idea, but you can't steal the magic.
Yeah, the abundance mentality is always a better mentality. You can't
Yeah,
take the brain that came up with the idea, just the idea.
because Matt, you and I know that I feel you're this way as well. I know that I don't know, that I won't know, that I'll maybe find out. But it's as AI releases and changes everything, even to the point where it changes it where I didn't see that coming.
Hmm.
I love new things. I love new advances, and I love solving new problems. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's like it doesn't make a difference what AI is going to be able to take over. Like you said, I just won't have to worry about doing that thing anymore. I'll figure out another way of connecting and making people feel good.
Well, it'll also, one of the things that it's going to do is it's going to simplify a lot of the ways that we communicate, since we've kind of lost touch with how to do that because
Yeah,
of the internet. So like I think not only will it be the biggest rehabilitation program to getting people to communicate better with one another again,
right,
because there's a system you can bounce those things off of that will help you learn, that doesn't have a bias and also doesn't have like a hate in its body for you, doesn't have a
right.
body. So,
It's not competitive.
well, that's the thing is like at what point, and this is going to happen with everybody if it hasn't happened to you yet, but at what point do you start talking with ChatGPT about personal information that you wouldn't give to anybody but a therapist? At what point does that happen for you? Because if it's already happened, good for you. You got to see the experience a little early, like the rest of us, right? And for the people that go, I'm too scared to give it my information or have a conversation with it about important things to me or what I want to become or what I want to do, you're missing out on something that has the capability to really help you figure out what you want in life
Right.
faster and better than any system I've seen before.
Didn't you tell me that there was some kind of, maybe I seen this on a podcast or something, but there's some person that's really high in the psychiatric community that
Hmm.
that just said there he said that AI is going to really truly be the therapist you always wanted. And he said
Yeah,
because
the tutor.
when people are trying to give you therapy, they only have their schooling, their continued education, and their experiences to help you.
Well, a great therapist is somebody that adapts to the person based
Yes.
off of their experience. You do this too, but like, you adapt to the situation and to the person and to their demeanor and things like that. AI is really great at doing this. So the more communications you have with an artificial intelligence system, the more knowledge it will have on you and the more it will know how to communicate with you. So you having a lack of doing that is only going to hurt you moving forward
Right. Right.
severely. And everybody that's taken the time to sit down and go, how do I interact with these systems? Because now you have PC apps even. There's not a day that goes by that I don't communicate with artificial intelligence about all different kinds of things,
Me too.
right? And so, if I have a question about
I don't ask Google
anything,
anything anymore.
well, now that search is in AI and open AI, why would I use Google, right?
Right.
So, Google has paid websites that show up ahead of all the rest of the information at this point.
Hmm.
And that is not, that's not regulated in the right way.
Well,
So,
it looks like they might be in for a little bit of a kibosh. You know what I mean?
well, they're trying to catch up as fast as they can with Gemini because
Oh no,
OpenAI
did you hear that the government went after Google
to
and
break
told
them up
them,
and take Chrome.
yeah, and told them that these are the things that they're planning on doing if Google doesn't come up with a way to do it themselves. And they want them to sell off like sell Chrome, or they want them to sell Android. And I'm going like, holy cow. It's like,
Yeah, Google does openly have somewhat of a monopoly on these systems. Chrome, if you guys looked it up, it's not even close. It's the most used browser probably by like at least 50%.
yeah.
And the other, I would venture to say that the other amounts are people either going on to get Chrome or just using Firefox like me because they hate certain things about Chrome. But it's crazy to me that they bring that stuff up because it's like who are they saying these things for, right? Because we all are fully aware that that's not going to happen.
Right.
Just like we're all fully aware that TikTok's not going away. It's like these politicians and these people just want to say this shit. So then we can all go, oh, that would be nice. But the reality is that there's no way humanly possible that all of these senators and congressmen vote to dismantle certain parts of Google when they have massive amounts of shares in Google. You'd have to be stupid. So like that's something that ends up happening, right? It's like, okay, so Nancy Pelosi just bought more Nvidia. What are the odds that Nvidia is going to get regulated by Congress and Senate? It's not going to. So like that's for good and for bad. That's just the situation we're in, like, if you're living in barbarian times, you got to figure out how to survive barbarian times, right? So,
well, most of the time, I think it's just a small group of people that are making a bunch of noise, so someone feels like they got to stand up for them.
you know what? I have a really deep take that I'm going to say, and I'd love to hear what you think about this.
Sure.
And other people too in chat, please. Do you guys think, because of the lack of religion being the number one de facto thing in like the United States and a lot of places now, like in Europe and the United States, religion used to be huge and it's like losing numbers, right? There's more agnostic people, and this isn't going a direction you think it's going. It's not prayer in schools. It's not bringing religion back. But I think that the significance that people used to get in their lives out of religion and the lack of religion existing is why the political spectrums on both sides are as severe as they are now. Because people have replaced religion with politics.
No doubt. No
so
doubt.
Instead of going and worshiping a god or something like that, they worship the party of the Republicans. They worship the party of the Democrats and what they want.
The blue.
Exactly.
The blue,
and it feels to me
the red.
that these people, and that's why they're so right fighters on either side about it, is because it just really reminds me of religion.
Yeah,
Certain aspects of religion. And it's like,
well,
do you even read the other sides out there? You're not reading anything but the one book, right? So like, that's how it feels.
I agree.
What do you think about that?
I agree with you because it clicks in with the 6 human needs. And people don't want to be alone. They want to feel like they're part of something. They want to feel significance and connection. And when there's nothing better in the world, and significance, connection, love, contribution, than being connected and a follower of something.
Yeah, being part of a movement. And like, that's the thing. If every movement is sold to you like it's the civil rights movement, then you're going to think you're significant.
Oh,
because
definitely.
The civil rights movement was significant. So like, you have large amounts of people that are being sold that they're part of the new age civil rights movement, regardless of what side it's on. And they feel like if they're not a part of this and they don't push this agenda, that they're harming humanity and society. It's like this anti-shift, instead of like connecting together and figuring out how to fix things. The dogma of all of it is just like overwhelmed everybody to the point that they don't even listen to other people.
No.
And it's
the whole thing, like I think I shared this with you before, which to show you that I'm on the same page as you.
Sorry to interrupt you. By the way, Craig lost internet. If anyone's on here wondering, because we just have been going off on this topic for a second. Craig lost internet. I don't think he'll be back because it's like an outage for his area.
Yeah.
But
I know he left.
We're still here for a bit. So.
Yeah. But I'll just say this, I talk about it all the time. It happened, in my lifetime, but Barbara Walters, just wanted to come up with the concept, is there a heaven? And so she had the power more than anybody at the time she did that, where she just talked to the head of every belief she could find, who considered the best rabbi, who considered the best. She talked to the Dalai Lama, and then she also talked to, the head of the Christian movement, the head of the Muslim.
Yeah, wasn't the only person that said they knew what happened 1,000,000% was the evangelical Christian, right?
Yep.
Everybody else was like, we believe this could be the case. Even the leaders of those religions.
The biggest scholars of each belief, when they were so humble. And
Mhm.
of course, the one that I remember all the time is, the Dalai Lama, because the
Right.
first question she said to him was, am I allowed to touch you or hug you? He goes, absolutely. And she said, well, I'm not trying to get anybody in trouble, but I was told that I couldn't do that. He goes, by who?
Right.
See what I mean? So it's even the people that were protecting him that still believe in stuff that are not true. And she said, okay. So she gave him a hug. And then she said to him, so, they say that you're it. There's really no one out there on the planet that is better than you. And he's going, and that's why I wear glasses.
See, I love
I just
responses like that too.
everything that
Yeah.
he said, and
It's so
then,
simple and says so much because
yeah,
like that's yeah.
yeah. And then she says, "Well, they also say that you're a knower of all." And he goes, "I wouldn't have showed up for this appearance if someone didn't get me here and knew my schedule." And he
Right.
says, "I know all things, but I don't know where I'm going after this event." Because there's a group of people out there that put all this together for me, and I go where they tell me to go, and then I show up at this and meet these people or do this thing. So I don't even know what I'm doing tomorrow. You know what I
Right.
mean? So then she said the ultimate question is so do you believe that if people don't believe like you, that there's nothing more for them? And he goes, that is not true at all. He goes, that is not true at all. And he goes, so you believe that people can believe other things? He goes, oh, absolutely. I mean, so you got a guy
Yeah,
that's
no, I
going to
remember
be,
when like there was this huge riff when the new and Catholicism is what it is. But when the new pope
yeah,
was picked and then he came out and he's like, "Oh, it's so like people that are gay can go to heaven and people that are atheists can go to heaven if they're good people."
hang
And then
on.
people are like, "Wait, excuse me? I don't have to eat the wafers
Look,
anymore? What are you
I,
talking about?"
I'm an old Catholic. I don't want to believe in the
I
progressive.
still believe the hellfire part. That's the part I love the most. The fear part.
And not making fun of anyone's beliefs. I just think that, I think a good place for me to close up this part of the conversation is, man, I have so much gratefulness and happiness and joy and peace of mind just being in a place of I don't need to know. I know that I don't know, and I'm okay not knowing. I'm
Well,
okay going through
yeah.
every day, just doing my very best to enjoy and be grateful and thankful for each moment of that day. And I'm okay with not knowing what's going to happen next. Where do I have to be? What kind of schedule? I remember one time I seen an interview, and I think you and I talked about this before, where Albert Einstein literally said that time was made up. And he said, here's what's crazy. He goes, do you realize that everything that man has made up, that there is an exclusion to what they believe? And he said, so if you're standing at the North Pole, you can't be more in the middle of North Pole. What time zone are you in?
Yeah. Yeah. The North
Because
Pole.
there's
I don't
only
know.
two answers.
Standard time. What are you talking about?
Yeah, there's only two answers. All or none. No, no, no. I asked what time zone you're in. Well, I'd have to make one step to be in a time zone. But right now, you're not in a time zone.
No, there's states too that border, every time you take the drive from Montana to California, you pass through Arizona. And Arizona is like one of those states that doesn't change time zones.
No,
So daylight savings happens, it's still the same time in Arizona. Nothing changes over there. So at least I think so, right?
no, that's true. There's
Yeah.
daylight savings time, And that's D, and then there's
Which,
standard.
by the way, to go to show how incompetent at least the government here is in California. Majority of people passed getting rid of daylight savings time years ago. Probably, I think it
Yeah.
was like 2016 or 2020. In the state of
82,
California,
82%.
and it is still not enforced in the state of California, even though majority of people passed it, majority of people wanted it. It'll be a decade and they'll still not have it done.
No,
And it's like,
no.
you wonder why people are so fucking irritated.
Yeah, it's like here's what
Dude,
and that's why all the things I've heard of, Matt, recently, that's everyone now understands that there's 33 and a third people that are just not going to participate. And it sort of makes you think sometimes, wow, maybe they could be the smartest people. You know what I mean? It's like they're at a mindset where they're not aware of what's going on. They're doing their best to take care of themselves and their family, and they're not being tossed to and fro by anything.
that's a majority of people. And I think that's why when
Yeah,
Trump won the election, I think that's why it freaked everybody on the internet out so fucking much.
yeah,
Because I think everybody collectively realized that they've been in such a echo chamber, whether it's on these social media sites or whether it's from the media they consume or the podcasts they consume, that they didn't see a feasible possibility that they could all call a guy Adolf Hitler and he'd still win.
yep,
Because they assumed that because everybody was on the internet that would somehow work. But the
yeah. In their
reality is
echo chamber, everyone was saying no.
the people that go to work around me that aren't on the internet all the time, the people that have the bumper stickers or whatever it is, right? These people don't really care either way. They just want a better life for them and their
Yeah,
kids.
yeah,
And I think regardless if you're selling fear or you're selling excitement, it's whoever is the loudest in
yeah,
the room. And
yeah,
so like at this point it's really interesting because as AI starts to happen, I'm really curious to see uh how we retrain everybody. Like what
yeah.
we do with that.
I think the fastest way to retrain everyone is really just to give them, you and I talk about this all the time. Um, where was I watching recently? Um, because I do dabble in watching legacy news. Call
That's what
that.
they're called now, right?
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
watch two channels, and I'm not going to throw either one of them under the bus. But they were calling these people that were saying was just outraged. I mean, outraged, doing boycotts. They were doing all this stuff against Coca-Cola because how dare they create an AI commercial? And I was going, I can't wait to tell Matt this
Well,
because
that's the thing
when you
is I
got
already, yeah.
when you got the mainstream people that are in bubbles and they're like AI bad, AI bad. Um, and they want to punish the company that decided to use it. And I'm going like, oh my God, for me, that makes me more excited about AI. That just means that
Well,
it's not that,
this happens
it,
with every single
yeah,
set of this type of stuff. Mainstream media, there's a reason that mainstream media never talks about YouTube or any of that shit at all, even though it decimates their numbers all the time. And it's more news. The shit that happens on YouTube and on Twitch and on Twitter is larger news than the shit that's happening with these celebrities sometimes.
yeah,
And people, they don't even talk about it or acknowledge it, like the shit going on with Mr. Beast or whatever. Even
yeah,
though that's a big thing and it should make mainstream news, they won't talk about it because it would draw eyes away from them into YouTube.
got
And
it.
that's their fear. Their fear is that their demographics will disappear. But you're right. I think as um things start to grow, especially with the stuff you said with the Coca-Cola commercial. I've dealt with this stuff for like over a year, right?
Yeah.
Like if I post AI art that I've made, or if I post art that
You
had
told me
something to
that.
do
I
with
was going like,
AI,
why?
I'm like, listen, if you're in these circles, you gotta, not only are the circles niche, like I was saying, but you gotta realize that it's like, imagine if you're sitting around and you're Steve Jobs and all these other guys, and you're seeing 3D animation for the first time, and you're going, so wait, instead of taking a pencil and drawing it frame by frame, I can just move the arm here instead of keyframe, and move an arm here on a instead of keyframe on a computer, and it just moves. I don't have to draw that all out anymore. The computer will figure it out. It's like, yes, that's not animation. All right, dude. Like that's because
Yeah.
the thing about it, and I've always come back to this. The two main things that will always survive are the two things that always have survived since the dawn of all this shit. Good stories, storytelling, and the convenience of being able to tell those stories.
Yeah.
Those two things have only gotten easier, and AI will make them the easiest they've ever been. So
When you said
you're
Ben
gonna have a
M,
lot of shit, but you're gonna
yeah.
also have a lot of really, really good stuff that wouldn't have existed without it. So
When you said, I like the word that when you sent me that video on Ben Affleck, I never ever thought in talking about what you and I are talking about that we would talk about something called taste. But that is it. Because the person that bought the banana, whether it's a
ready to
practical joke or whatever it is, the reason that people like one painter over another, one music over another, one sculpture over another, one architect over another, it's all based on your taste.
Yep.
Because some people go, that's garbage, and the other people goes, this is the coolest thing ever. And it's their ability through their authenticity to be able to talk passionately about that thing that creates the value. So the rest of the world sits around and goes, I don't think that that stuffed animal is worth having. And then someone can find the collector's item of this and pay 10 grand because it was one of the very first ones that was produced.
And it's significant to them or to other
and
people.
some
Yeah.
idiot had to take off.
Well, we add significance to all of these things. And I think that's what's so interesting about it is every single time you take steps back and analyze like how people act and how they're doing certain things, you really get like it paints you a very quick picture of how this stuff is so manufactured that there's no way it won't be the way that it'll be in the future with AI and the other things.
Yeah.
It's just the way that humanity does stuff, right? Like we put sentimental value on things, we add value to shit that's not valuable, or take value away from things that are very valuable. Like there's nothing more valuable than the time that you spend with the people you love and care about. And yet all of us spend probably more time on social media than we spend with them. So like, isn't that interesting? That's a
why I'm
thought.
thankful. That's why I'm thankful to do a Zoom with you, Matt.
Well, same, but like it's just one of those things where you like when you do take a step back and analyze this stuff, it's like, how could something be so important and yet most people don't spend too much time on it, and something could be so insignificantly important and yet they spend so much of their time on it.
Yeah.
It's like it's an interesting duality of things because I'll see people outside walking with their kids on their phones the whole time.
Yeah.
Or walking their dogs or whatever, and it's like I'm not here to judge. Like,
No.
dude, live your life whatever way you want to. Like it just is what it is. But man, even when I go on a walk with my dogs and I just don't even bring my headphones, so I'm not even listening to music and I just am present outside, I'm like, damn, why don't I just do this? Why do I always need something else to
Yeah.
make this? Right. And those questions, Hannah sent me this funny picture gift the other day, and I'll send it to you. But it's like, when's the last time you did this? And it was like someone's face and the eyeballs rotated back to the brain, and the brain was like had eyes and it was staring at it. It's like, when's the last time you stared backwards at yourself and like looked your brain in your mind and went, what am I doing here? Like, what is significant to me? What is important to me?
Right. What would I rather be doing right now?
Right. And like, how do I fix the the shit that I shouldn't be doing or isn't as important, right? And if it is, don't let other people tell you what is and isn't important also,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. It's
So it's like,
this whole concept, again, I just find it so egotistical that people somehow through their lives really truly believe that it's important that you feel and think like me. That is so frickin' bizarre. Craig started us out, maybe it's a good place to leave where,
yeah,
you're just very thankful, for people in your life and so on and so forth. And then we hear that families are not even, uh, divorces because of the way that you're voted, or you're not invited to Thanksgiving because of the way that you voted. And I'm going like, wow, how'd we,
by design.
yeah,
Like I said, it's been replaced. I'll never forget. There was a moment in time that something like this happened in my life where we went to visit family, and it was mom's side of the family. So, her sister's side of the family. And I'm not dropping any names or anything, but we go and we sit down. And when we sit down, what does everybody do? Thanksgiving, everyone's sitting down. We say grace, right? We all pray. Now, I don't pray. It's not something that I do. And I do it like I'll bet I'm respectful. I'm not gonna sit there and be like, I'm right. That's what I was gonna do. I'm like, hey, everybody, you can't see me. But no, that would be disrespectful. Never do that. But the thing that happened was, it was like, I think it was my uncle or something like that. It's like, oh, you don't believe in this, and it's like, no. He's like, so you're an atheist, and it's like, yeah, and it just kind of like permeated the other people that were there, that it's like I'm a pariah in a sense because I don't believe the same stuff. And
yeah,
it's like this immediate thought that like, oh, are these people my family? Because they should be perfectly fine with it. Like I'm perfectly fine with them. So why is this disconnect now here all of a sudden? Right. And I've experienced certain things like that, but
yeah.
you have to
It's
look at
always
yourself,
people.
flip your eyes back and go, where not when am I doing that? That's
Yeah,
your responsibility. So
I think it's always people. They get their value. They get their value in life. It's funny. I said this to Josh Flowers too, and I said, when people start talking about a religion or anything like that, I'm going like, so let me get down to core, core. And as I said, you know, bottom line, whatever that is just love. No one can, everyone that's unique as their DNA has different feelings and thoughts and in their explanation of what love is. All right. And I said, so if you were a belief in something that made you feel love, then really all you're trying to say to somebody else, that I think that you could be more loved if you did this. And I said, and don't you find this weird that if I ask right now, that based on your beliefs, whatever it is, I love baseball, I love golfing, I love swimming, I love being a Christian, I love country western music. I want you to tell me one name of one person in the last year that because of your love for whatever it was, you were able to get them to understand that love and it altered and changed their lives.
yeah, good point.
And Josh went, whoa. And I said, so why people don't share what they love is because they're
They don't want
not
to be
there.
ridiculed. Well, they don't
Yeah,
want to.
they're not
Yeah,
there. So because if you totally loved, and we see this in everything, when people totally love what they do, I got a quick story. You'll love this. Everyone knows who Tony Stewart is. If you don't know who he is, I mean, the guy's won Indy cars. He's won Formula cars. He's won Indy,
one of the best race car
yeah,
drivers of all
Grand
time.
National. He
Yeah,
is
like
the
Hall of
only
Fame and
guy.
multiple different ones.
Yeah, listen to this. He's the only guy in history that went to the Indianapolis 500, took third place in a 500-mile race, jumped in a helicopter, flew to the airport, got in a private jet, flew from Indianapolis, Indiana, all the way to Charlotte, North Carolina, got in a helicopter, flew into the race that was waiting for him, the Coca-Cola 600, and jumped in a car after driving 500 miles, drove another 600 miles, and took third place. So, and 1,100 miles, not counting the 4,000 in air traffic, he did this all in one day. Nobody
Wow.
on the planet's ever done that. So, he's an owner of a NASCAR team. A friend invites him to an NHRA, drag racing. Now, he knew of it, just didn't know anything about it. And he goes there, and world record last weekend, quarter mile. This is 3 city blocks from 0 to 341 miles an hour.
It's nuts.
And he goes there about a year ago, and he looks at it, and he just goes, hey, this is a new thing I want to do. So he goes around and he introduces to everyone, and he walks up to this one car, and wow, this is nice. He goes, Leah. Well, Leah, what a weird name that, for a guy. And they goes, it's not a guy. Our top fuel drag racer is Leah Pruitt. She's a woman. And he goes, I'd like to meet her. And she comes out, and like Tony Stewart is like, I'm in love. And she's way younger than him. He's like 54, 55. She's in her 30s,
Mm-hmm.
and he's like, are you kidding me? So now he's watching. She goes and wins the race. And he's like, now he's exposed to something he didn't even know existed.
Right.
And so he asked her if he could sit down and talk to her. And she says, well, this might be my last year of racing because I'm just tired of trying to find sponsorships and stuff. And our budget's this high and blah, 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 blah. And she says, I'm just tired of fighting for it. And he's like, well, what are you talking about sponsorship? She said, we probably need like $5.5 million. And Tony Stewart goes, I'll sponsor.
Yeah, it's not a lot to him.
I'll sponsor the top fuel and also the funny car. And she's going,
so cool.
Awesome. And then she goes, you know what? Have you ever driven one of these? Because we have an alcohol car that's 3 layers down. And he goes, no. She says, I'll get the crew to pull it out. You can actually test it. So he not only tests the car, but then he gets in the alcohol part of his own company. And then the very next thing you know, he wins his first race.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone was pissed off. Listen to this one, Matt, because this is the way people are.
Right.
He just makes an announcement to NASCAR that this will be my last season with NASCAR.
Right.
There was 280 employees, 3 drivers that drove for him. And they're like, oh, okay, we're done this year. Yeah. Then what? Then nothing.
Right.
I'm closing that chapter of my life, and I'm moving on. And so as soon as he made that commitment, Leah heard about it, and was like blown away. And she's going, wow, how can you're knowing for this? And he just closed the chapter and went to this. And he goes, I feel alive. I feel alive doing something I'm not good at. I don't understand it. I'm a rookie over here. I just love this. And she fell in love with that passion, and they got married.
Aw.
So, Matt,
a multi-win for him.
Yeah. So now they get married. I think there's like 25 years difference in their age, right? And so they married. And as soon as they get married, she sets Tony Stewart down and said, listen, there was something else I didn't tell you. And he's going, what? And the reason that I wanted to quit is because I wanted to be married and have a family. Yeah. I'm 34 years of age, and I can't tell you how much I want a family. And he's going, well, what about you're the driver for the car? And she goes, no, you're the driver for the car.
Right.
He goes, I wouldn't have sponsored this if it wasn't for you. And she said, even though you took the financial hardship off of me, I still want a family. So she gets pregnant. This was the last race of the season.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden she goes into labor. So on Saturday, he qualified the car, jumped in the jet, flew back home. They had their son like at 2 a.m. And right after they had their son and he's held it, got pictures and sharing it with everyone, she looks at him and says, you got a team to run. He stayed up all night, gets in a plane, flies all the way to Pomona, California. And when he gets out and his whole team is around him, there was one thing, you'll love the end of the story. There's one thing that Tony Stewart is known for. His nickname is the Smoke because of his burnout.
I remember. Yeah, I remember.
He is Mr. Competitive win at all costs. Plane comes in, helicopter takes him over to the track. The team comes out. He walks into the trailer, grabs some red duct tape, pulls it out and cuts it, and took that red duct tape and put it over his name and took a Sharpie and he put Dad.
Aw. Damn. See, I feel like, yeah, that's
and
perfect.
everybody's looking at him, and he's got this big smile on his face. Went around to the other side, put it on the other side, and then on the side of his helmet, he put. So every place that had Tony Stewart's signature and it said Smoke, he covered it with red duct tape and drew Dad on there with a Sharpie. And everybody goes, wow, what has happened to you? And he goes, everything.
He's like, there's not going to be much racing.
Yeah. He goes, everything happened to me. He says, in 2 years, I could give a shit about NASCAR. I get in a new thing. I find a person that's passionate like me. We get married. Today I'm a father. And he goes, I just have one thing for each person out there that doesn't get this. He goes, Dad is going to compete today. And if you thought I was fucking sharp before.
That's funny.
So I said all that to say that each and every person that's on here, you got to find that thing that makes you to want to take who you are and reinvent yourself to a different level, whether it's AI or trading or making an impact in other people's life to inspire them enough to imagine a better future for them and their family. And that's why I'm here. You know what I mean? I love finding things that I know that, people now are getting involved with me and they're winning within 24 hours.
Well, I was going to say, it's funny because like, as I was making the new graphic, right, you're just bringing up Tony Stewart's nickname, the Smoke, right? You're the Imaginator. Come on.
Yeah.
And you help people accomplish that. And without a doubt, I think that those are the things, like if you're wondering why you're not taking the next steps in doing what you just described, Dad, it's probably because you're missing that element. So
yeah, and in the close, it's not going to be found in other people and other followings.
Right.
You can bet all you want on the red team and you can bet all you want on the blue team. You can bet all you want on a boxer. You can bet all you want on a football team. You can bet all you want and other people and other movements, and you're fucking going to be disappointed.
Well, expectations too.
Yeah.
When you hook your trailer to the train, right? And your expectations are to show up in Indianapolis and you show up in Atlanta. That's your fault. That's not their fault.
Yeah.
Because they were like, I'm going to Atlanta. And you're like, oh, well, I hope he does a detour to Indianapolis,
So, a lot of people getting corporate jobs and they They look for unrealistic expectations, believing that, if I do this, 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 and this, and sacrifice my life and my time with my family, that I'm going to go up this ladder. And as soon as I get up the ladder, I'll be making enough with benefits to be able to start and reinvent the rest of my life. Today is the day. It's not one day, it's 2 day.
That's the perfect ending. Today's the day.
Yeah. All right, everyone. So we don't have Craig on here. Of course, I love and appreciate each and every one of you. Thanks to Craig.
Thank you, Dad.
We normally thank Craig for running everything, but he's not here. And
we'll still thank him for
we seen him on here. He's on the phone right now chewing up Spectrum, and
I mean, I'm on Spectrum now. I know you're on Spectrum. Speaking of monopolies, but anyway, that's for another time.
Yeah.
But no, love and appreciate you guys. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing this time with us, and we'll be back here next Friday, right?
Yeah. So is Thanksgiving? Wait. When is Thanksgiving?
I was gonna look. Is it next Friday? If it is next Friday, we probably won't be doing it on Thanksgiving.
No, it's next Thursday.
There we go. So, okay. Probably do a Black Friday then.
Yeah,
I didn't even think about that.
Well, we could come on. No, it isn't Black Friday today. No, Black Friday's tomorrow. Next week.
The day after Thanksgiving. So the next Friday we do will be Black Friday.
There you go.
Okay, we're gonna do a FOMO episode, you guys.
Absolutely. Well, I love you, Matt.
Love you too.
Milo and Rue, the grandkids, a hug and a kiss, and tell Hannah I love her.
Will do. Same over there. Love you guys.
Love you.